And welcome to the skills module. This is where we're going to cover off a few fundamental skills that are required to create world-class hypnosis scripts. They really are the basis that you create the rest of your scripts around. Now we're going to have a look at this. There's a quick overview for you there. So you can see that there are three branches we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on vakog. And what is vakog? Looking at the various elements that we can bring into our hypnosis scripts and the purpose behind that. We're also going to look at generalizing and how we generalize in our language and more importantly in our written language, and what's the impact of doing that, of generalizing within our language. How does that draw our client deeper into a trance state, and how do we really use that to help our clients create those unconscious changes? And then finally within the skills, we're going to be looking at language patterns. And there's a number of language patterns that are modeled from the world famous Milton Erickson, who's renowned for his ability to trance people out using conversational hypnosis. And so we're going to look at a number of his language patterns and then how to use them throughout a hypnosis script so that your script takes your client deeper and deeper into trance. So vakog really does allow your metaphors to just pop, to really have that deep association for the client. And we'll look at how that works. Really, a vakog is just a fancy acronym for all five of our senses. So visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. So to see, to hear, to feel, to smell, and to taste. And you might hear this term being thrown around a bit, depending on the circles that you move throughout. It is a NLP term that's used quite a bit when we refer to vakog, and we want to use vakog and how. So we're going to look at how to use vakog throughout a hypnosis script. And it's kind of like the difference between watching a color television versus a black and white television. And the difference really is that a color television is so much more vibrant and you feel like you're really there as opposed to watching something that's black and white, and we're a little bit more dissociated from that. And I guess if you give anyone the choice whether they want to watch a black and white television or a color television, most people are going to choose the color television. And they choose it mostly because they enjoy it more. They feel like they can associate more to the stories or the pictures that are being shown throughout the screen. And that's really what we're doing here as a bit of a metaphor in itself, is that by using vakog, takes our stories or takes our hypnosis script from being black and white and makes it more colorful, makes it more vibrant. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And I use the word associate, and some people don't understand what associate means. And so there's two words that we're going to look at. We're going to look at associated or dissociated. And there's different ways to spell dissociated. You can say disassociated or you can say dissociated. It just depends on what country you're from and what you prefer. But really the main point that I'm trying to make here is that when we use vakog, it allows our clients to become more associated with the story or with the metaphor that we're telling. And what I mean by associated is that they can actually feel the emotions more than if they were dissociated. And when somebody's associated, they are typically looking at something through their own eyes. Almost as though if you were to look down at your hands right now, and whatever you're seeing is a visual depiction of an associated state. You're just seeing your own hands. You're typically not seeing your own face. Whereas a dissociated state or a dissociated point of view is where you actually see yourself in the picture. And so if you were to look at yourself in a mirror, or as a different example, if you were to look at a photograph of yourself, then that is a dissociated state. So you're seeing yourself in the picture. And so you're more removed from the emotional content that you could be feeling in that moment. And so that's where we're going to use associated and dissociated when we're going to talk about our client. And the purpose of vakog is it really helps our client deeply associate to the stories that we're going to be telling them so they can really feel those emotions, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking them through this journey where they're going to feel certain emotions. We really want them to feel these positive emotions. We want them to feel resourcefulness so that when they come out of that trance state, those feelings of resourcefulness stay with them. And so we're going to look at the first one. The first one is visual in the vakog collection there. Look at our visual elements. And so you associate your client visually by using words such as you see something in front of you, or as you look over the horizon, or imagine what it would look like, or picture this. And there's many other words you can use that really lead in a visual sense, so that our client starts to create these visual pictures internally, these visual internal representations as we're taking them through the hypnosis script. The next one is auditory. So look at how do you associate your client auditorily. And you can do that by using, again, different words to lead in an auditory fashion, such as you hear the trees moving in the breeze. Listen to the sounds of the birds as they fly overhead. The sound of the soft, thundery boom of the waterfall as it cascades down the cliff. And so you want to use some auditory leading words to, again, associate your client to the things they can hear. What sounds can they hear throughout this metaphor? Kinesthetic. How do we associate our client kinesthetically? So how do they get a certain feel for things? So you can feel the coolness of the water on your hands, or the touch of the bark on the tree is quite rough, and you grasp hold of the door handle. And so you want to, again, use leading words to really drive your client to focus on the fact that there is something kinesthetically there for them to experience, as well as just guiding them to experience the coolness of the air. So changes in temperature or texture are really good ways to bring in more kinesthetic elements to your script. And then look at olfactory. How do we associate our client to smells? And that can be done quite easily by saying things like you can smell the sweet aroma in the air, or the essence of the lemony zest is wafting through the room. Well, there's a light fragrance of perfume that you can smell as you walk towards this house. And again, so you want to really draw your client in even deeper through using olfactory related words, and to draw their attention to certain smells that they can pick up on. And then finally, we want to associate the client to certain tastes that may be relevant. Now, this is not, in my experience I've found, this is probably the least of the 5 that you would typically use. However, it depends on the situation. You might tend to use it more often. And so you can taste the salt in the air is another way that you would draw their attention to certain things that they can taste, or the sweetness, or the delicious smell, or that yummy flavor of. And so they're the sorts of words you would typically use to really draw your client's attention to the fact that there is something there for them to taste. Now, what I'd like you to do is to practice using vakog, and to use as much vakog as possible. And the way you're going to practice to do that is to write a paragraph about your client walking along a beach, any beach you like. And I want you to just write this paragraph about telling your client that about them walking along the beach. And I want you to use as much vakog range as you can. It's going to lead your client into being deeply associated to this little story. So what you're going to do is just write a quick story, just a short paragraph, no more than 300 words, about your client walking along a beach, but I want you to use all the visual elements you can. I want you to use all the auditory things that they can hear, all the things they can feel. They can feel the coolness of the water, or the sand between their toes, or whatever they can feel. Maybe the olfactory. What can they smell? They might be able to smell the salt in the air. Might even be able to smell a dead fish on the beach, perhaps. And then gustatory. What can they taste? Maybe something, maybe nothing. It depends on how you want to tell your story. So what I want you to do now, before you move to the next lesson, is I want you to take 5 minutes of your time right now, get into the habit of writing using as much vakog as possible. So write a quick 300 word or less paragraph about your client walking along the beach, and use as much vakog as possible. And then when you're done, move on to the next exercise.